It's Ramadan, so it's time to talk about my Ramadan reading list. As always, all the links, if available, to the books are going to be in the description down below, linking to bookshop.org, which works with independent bookstores and getting them some extra funding based off the sales from bookshop.org. So please find them down below. So these books are going to be in no particular order apart from the first two, and I'll explain why. So the first book is one I've actually finished, which was Babel by R.F. Kuang. To be honest, I started this book before Ramadan started, and I just finished it, but I really enjoyed this. Like, I think the first third is quite slow. I wish that was a little bit pacier, I think, but the latter part of the book is really like, okay, this is for me. I know there's a lot of criticism towards this book, especially for its critique of British people, meaning the British Empire, to be honest, and also of white people in the terms of not understanding discrimination, but also it does touch on, discrimination women face as well, even white women face that discrimination, and I think people didn't like that. I don't know why. I know a lot of people don't like when racism is brought up in books, but I thought it was handled really well. It is a bit thick. Maybe, like I said, that first third could have been a little bit condensed for me personally, but I still think it was a really great read, which inspired my next read, which I've not started yet, so it's still part of my reading list. It is From the Ruins of Empire by Pankaj Mishra. It is basically looking into the effect that the British Empire had on primarily Asia in this book, and the consequences of that, and the kind of outcomes of the British Empire and the effect it's had on particularly like China and India, it seems, but I think it also looks at the wider Asian area, to be honest. So kind of related to Babel, or Babel, depending how you want to say it, kind of related to that because it talks about Asia, particularly China, like in Babel, and also the British Empire's effect on that part of Asia. So, that's kind of why I decided to pick it up. It was already on my bookshelf, so I decided I might as well read it. The next book is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang again. To be honest, I wasn't planning on getting this book initially until after it came out in paperback. I think that's happening in May. But after reading Babel, however you want to say it, I was like, I've got to read this like now. So it's got to come. I bought it online. It'll probably come in the next couple days or so. I also made sure to check it doesn't have any, like inappropriate content, because during Ramadan, you still don't want to be consuming stuff that's like, sexually explicit, etc. And I'm pretty sure from what I looked into, it doesn't have any of that. Maybe it's got like kissing or something, but that's okay. It's not, it's not a home run, as the kids. Do they still say that these days? I don't know. They used to say it back in my days. But yeah, that's, I picked up Yellowface. I've heard only great things about it, so I'm looking forward to it. And because I enjoyed Babel so much, I give it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, I want to pick this up as well. The next two books kind of touch a little bit closer to the themes of actually Ramadan, and the first one is Lost Islamic History. It's basically talking about Islamic history that we don't really hear about, especially here in the West. Normally when you're talking about Islamic history, you're kind of only thinking about the Gulf Wars, maybe around, the end of British colonialism in the Middle East. And that's kind of all you hear about Islamic history, which is disappointing because Islamic history is so vast, like in distance and also history. And, some people might not agree with some of the stuff in it, and some would be interested to see how it's spread to different parts of the globe. And I think this book covers that. It talks about not just the Middle East, it seems, and also goes, all the way back to kind of the origins of Islam as a historical and political thing as well, which again, I don't think people really look and think about. And that's not just in Islam. I think that's across all religions. I don't think people really know much about the history of, particularly the Abrahamic faiths, because that's kind of what I know. People don't really know the history of those in much depth from a theology standpoint, as it pertains to politics and history, which is kind of why I was interested in picking up a book like this, because even my knowledge of Islamic history is it's spotty. I know here and there, but I don't really know the kind of the caliphates, the inner workings of them, and the transition to the Ottoman Empire, and then how Islam was spread to, you know, Southeast Asia. You know, I want to kind of know that as well, so it's kind of why I picked this book up. And the last book is The Last Mughal by William Dalrymple. If you've heard of William Dalrymple or you haven't heard of him, to be honest, he is like... let me describe it. Look at this meme. You white boy. This is kind of how I see William Dalrymple. Like, he is like really well studied in Indian history, particularly surrounding the British Empire. And from what I've read of his, which isn't extensive, his look at the British Empire in India isn't like overtly pro-Britain. You know, a lot of books you read about the British Raj and Britain and India, especially by Western academics, are very, look how great England was. They did great stuff for India. Nothing bad happened. Whereas Dalrymple is willing to critique the British Empire to a good extent. And The Last Mughal is talking about the last of the Mughal emperors and kind of the end of their rule in India, or at least the part of India they were still in. You know, it talks about their relationship with the British, which, you know, was a little bit closer to the British as, you know, maybe Hindu populations of India were in regards to Britain at the time. So... again, my knowledge of early British Raj history isn't that great. I know more so about the last, 100 years. That's what I know the most about, whereas the first 300 or so I'm not really that well versed in. So that's kind of why I wanted to pick up this book. Again, it's not really from the very beginning. It's kind of, you know, towards the end of the Mughals onwards. But and also I wanted to read more William Dalrymple. So I thought, well, I might as well get one about the Mughals. And you thought that was the last book? I tricked you! Actually, to be honest, I probably won't read this book during Ramadan, but I want to talk about it. It is Traces of Two Pasts. It is the light novel from the Final Fantasy VII Remake series. I'm currently playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I love Final Fantasy, by the way. I'm working through all of the games. I absolutely love the series. So I got so hooked on Rebirth that I decided to buy this book, which is basically like Tifa and Aerith talking about their pasts to one another, basically between the events of Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Basically, you know, when they're traveling after 7 Remake to where they are in Rebirth, it's basically them having a discussion. I was just like, oh, I want to pick this up. To be honest, I've wanted this book since I played Remake in, 2020? So it's been about 4 years. And because I got so hooked on Rebirth, I decided to pick it up. Again, I probably won't read it during Ramadan just because, you know, it's probably gonna be very tame anyway, but it's like the last one I'll probably read out of all the ones I've got. But I love Final Fantasy so much, so I have to gush about it to someone other than my friends who are playing Final Fantasy, but they're not going to read the books. So I need to talk to someone who reads the books. So that's my Ramadan reading list. I'll be honest, I don't know why I am so high energy right now, because I'm very tired. I think I'm overtired, that I've got that second burst of energy. So let's keep it going. So thank you for watching. All the links, again, are going to be in the descriptions down below. So they're going to be linking to bookshop.org where available. If not, I'll put the ISBN of the book for you to go and get it elsewhere. Some of the proceeds will go towards supporting independent bookstores. If it's not on bookshop.org, try and get it from an independent bookstore near you, or secondhand, or a library, or something. As always, I am going to put a link to UNRWA so you can donate to helping Palestine, because at the end of the day, you know, if you are going to buy something, you know, if you're, you know, between maybe buying them or not buying the books in the description down below, donate to UNRWA instead if you can, and try and pick up the book from your library, to be honest. But, you know, all the links will be in the description down below. Thank you for watching. I want to go and play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth right now, to be honest, and I hope you read a great book today.